we will be learning the magnetic field, how magnetic field is produced by a current through a circular loop of a conducting wire. Now, if you try to recap what we studied in the last lecture, you will remember that we studied the right hand thumb rule. The right hand thumb rule is also called the Maxwell's corkscrew rule, Maxwell's corkscrew rule, and this Maxwell's corkscrew rule or the right hand thumb rule gave us the direction of the magnetic field. That is, if the current is pointing in the upward direction, then the magnetic field is anti-clockwise, and if the current is pointing in the downward direction, then the magnetic field is clockwise. Okay, now this conductor was just a simple conductor, and if you look into the diagram, this diagram, you will realize that it is a slightly different from the earlier one. What is the difference? There we had one cardboard, and in that cardboard we had a hole which is made through the center. Here there is a cardboard, but there are two holes, right? And the loop of the wire is passed through the two holes. One loop of the wire is passed through this. So through the point P, okay, the wire of the loop enters, and it other end goes through Q. So you have this loop, and we have a circuit which is connected to this wire, so that current flows through it. Now what happens when the current flows through this loop of wire? You can observe that the magnetic fields are arranged in a particular way. Okay, this magnetic field which is generated is similar to the magnetic field which is generated by a bar magnet. Okay, let us look at the magnetic field of a bar magnet. So if you look at a magnetic field of a bar magnet, here the diagram represents a solenoid, but the magnetic field which is generated by this is also similar to that of a bar magnet. So you see there are two poles which are created. One is the north pole and one is the south pole, and the magnetic lines of force are moving. Okay, actually magnetic lines of force are always directed from the north pole to the south pole. So the magnetic lines of force which are produced by the loop of a wire is similar to that of a bar magnet. Okay, and an interesting point to note here is that the magnetic lines of force are very close to each other, closer to the loop of the wire, and as we go away from the loop of the wire, the magnetic lines of force go away. So here you can see the magnetic lines of force are very close to each other because they are close to the wire, and in this region, as you can see, the magnetic lines of force are away from each other because the strength of the magnetic field is less. Okay, just have a look at the diagram and try to analyze what did I say. So the magnetic lines of force are closer to the loop, indicating that the strength of the magnetic field is more, and they are away from each other. Okay, when you go away from the loop, which indicates that the strength of the magnetic field is less. Okay, so you have a, let us look what we have here. We have the cardboard through which circular loop is passed. There are 2 points P and Q through which the loop passes through the cardboard, and then it is connected to an electric circuit. The current is flowing from P to Q, okay, from P towards Q, and this produces a magnetic field which is similar to that of a bar magnet. Other point to notice, the magnetic lines of force are closer to each other near the loop, and they are away from each other as you go away from the loop, indicating that the strength of the magnetic field varies. Okay, that is near the loop the magnetic field is strong, and away from the loop the magnetic field is less. Now if you remember last year's board paper, if you look into the last year's board paper, I would rather say first year's board paper, the same diagram was there, but there was a modification in the diagram here where there is resistance. Okay, they had connected one more resistance like this in parallel. Okay, they had connected one more resistance, and remember, if the resistances are in parallel, so you see this was a question which was created not in the book, it was created from the knowledge which was taken from 9th standard. In 9th standard you had studied that resistances, when they are connected in parallel, the equivalent resistance decreases, and when they are connected in series, the equivalent resistance increases. So in this case, what I have drawn is that resistances are in parallel, and when they are connected in parallel, the equivalent resistance decreases. If the equivalent resistance decreases, then the current flowing through the circuit increases. If the equivalent resistance decreases, then the current flowing through the circuit increases, and that is what happens. Current flowing through the circuit increases. Then they had given a similar diagram beside this diagram, and what they had told is in which case the magnetic field will be more. Okay, so the next diagram beside this was, there was one more resistance here. Okay, there was one more resistance, and that was basically in series. So they had created a diagram where you had this first case, that is a normal one, along with the parallel resistance, and the second one, so this is parallel and this is series. Now if you know, in series the resistance increases. If the resistance increases, the current flowing through the conductor decreases, right? The question was, in which case the magnetic field will be more. Now, when you look at the first one, that is this one, that is, I'll name it as A. Okay, so when you look at A, you can see that the resistance are in parallel. Because they are in parallel, the equivalent resistance will be less, and so more current will flow through the circuit. When more current flows through the circuit, the magnetic field will be greater. Okay, compared to the second one, that is B, where the resistances are in series. When the resistance are in series, the equivalent resistance increases. When the resistance increases, the current flowing through the circuit decreases, and so the magnetic field will be less. Now the point is, see, this increase in current and decrease in current is just purely based on your SSC base. Okay, there is more to it, but now in SSC it is as simple as that, considering that I have explained it. Now if you look at the question, this question is neither totally of 10th standard nor of 9th standard, so they combine both 9th and 10th. That is why while teaching 9th standard, I told you whatever you studied in 9th should be known in 10th, because looking at this question, right, that how modified the question was, and it became very difficult for many children because they never saw such a diagram. Okay, where the same diagram was modified, and 9th standard content was added to it. So just have a look at this for 10 seconds or so, and then we will go to the next topic. This similar effect, can be produced by circular loop of wire. Now here there was a single loop of wire, right? So imagine if you have many loops of wire, okay, what will happen? You will get many magnetic lines of force, and it will resemble exactly like a bar magnet. So this circular loop of wire, okay, is called a solenoid. Okay, so it is a solenoid. Okay, so what is solenoid? Basically solenoid is coiled wire. Okay, it is, which has many loops. So you can see the yellow part Yellow part is a coiled wire, and that yellow part basically is the coiled wire, and when current flows through this coiled wire, it produces a magnetic field, and the magnetic field is, as I told you, exactly similar to that of a bar magnet. So just let us read, okay, if anything is mentioned regarding this solenoid. Yes, some interesting points are given here. Let's read it. One of the open ends, right? One of the open ends of the solenoid acts as a magnetic north pole, and other acts as a magnetic south pole. Okay, so that is one end acts as a magnetic north pole, and the other end acts as a magnetic south pole. And I told you already that magnetic lines of force are always directed from the north pole to the south pole. So it will proceed like this. For example, like this we proceed. Okay, so it will go like this, and its arrow will always be from the north to the south. So if you have your incoming one, okay, so it will be from the north to the south. Another point what you have to remember is whenever you draw these magnetic lines of force, as it goes away, the distance should increase. Why the distance should increase is because, as I told you, near the coil or any magnet, the magnetic lines of force are closer to each other, and as you go away, the magnetic lines of force are away from each other. Simple reason is because the strength of the magnetic field is more near the magnet or the solenoid, and as you go away, the strength of the magnetic field becomes less. So this is very important. So to understand that, near, as you can see here, magnetic fields are very closer to each other, magnetic lines of force are very closer to each other, and as you go away, they go far away from each other. So solenoid is nothing but, here, copper wire with a resistive coating is wound in a chain of loops, and that is called solenoid. Okay, so when a copper wire with a resistive coating is wound in a chain of loops, when a copper wire with a resistive coating is wound in a chain of loops, it is called solenoid. When a copper wire with a resistive coating, okay, now what is a resistive coating? Basically, it is a coating which prevents the direct contact of the loops, because if the coating will not be there on this and the loops of wire can touch each other, then it will be like a short circuit, like in the sense, like, directly the current will flow. Now see, I'm using the red color and showing you how the current has to flow. Actually, the current has to flow in the form of a loop. Okay, current has to flow like this. So the current has to flow in the form of a loop, right? But if if there is contact between, say, these two wires here, there's a contact between these two wires, what is going to happen is, current, when it flows like this, directly it will come in contact and flow. Okay, so I'm showing you the path, and then it will not flow in the form of a loop. And when it does not flow in the form of a loop, then you will not get the effect of the magnetic field. So solenoid therefore is not that much difficult topic. It's just that it is a copper wire with a resistive coating. So this resistive coating will prevent the direct contact of the wire, okay, and with each other, and it is in the form of loops, and one end of the solenoid acts as a magnetic north pole, and the other end acts as a magnetic south pole. Okay, now other point is the magnetic lines of force which are produced are very similar to each other, are very similar to that which are produced, which is produced in case of a bar magnet. So that is what a solenoid will behave like, a bar magnet. Okay, so this was the topic of solenoid. So we finished two small topics here. One topic was how what type of magnetic field is produced in a circular loop of wire, and that was the study or the base to understand how the magnetic field is produced in a solenoid. So in the first diagram, you had only one loop, okay, and we analyzed along with that, I told you how in the board exam they had manipulated this question and presented. Okay, they mix something from 9th standard, which is similar to general knowledge actually, what they had done. So basically, this topic deals with what type of magnetic field is produced in a circular loop of wire, and that we applied to the solenoid. Okay, we applied that to the solenoid, where we understood that the magnetic field which is produced is exactly similar to that of a bar magnet. Okay, from there we will try to understand what type of forces, okay, act on the conductor. So here we will try to see what is the experiment which is shown. Okay, so we have one wire, as you can see carefully. Wait, I'll try to just color it up. So you can see this red line I have drawn. Okay, so that red line basically is I have tried to draw it over the wire. Let me try to redraw that red line. Okay, and that red line has been, that is a wire actually which is held by the stand. We have a stand and it is held in between and between a horseshoe magnet, right? So horseshoe magnet, there is a north pole at one end of the horseshoe magnet and there is the south pole at the other end of the horseshoe magnet. So this wire is held. So I will just change the color scheme so that you can figure out. So this is the horseshoe magnet north pole, right, which I gave a blue color, and I will give a green color to the south pole of the horseshoe magnet, right, and I will keep my red color for the wire. Okay, so the wire is between the poles. Now the question here arises is what type of forces act. Okay, so what type of forces act, and see here you can see how the arrangement is very clear. It is, there is magnetic field which is acting on this wire, and that magnetic field is moving from the north pole to the south pole. Okay, other interesting point what we should know is this wire has to be connected to an source of charge, right? That is, it is connected to electric circuit so that current flows through the wire. Now when current flows through the wire, what can happen? So we will just try to read actually what is given in the textbook so that we know the actual words, and then later we will try to put in our own words. Okay, so what are the materials here? The material is a flexible copper wire. There is a stand, there is an electric cell, there's a horseshoe magnet with a very strong magnetic field. This has to be really very strong. Procedure: using the stand, fix the copper wire so that it passes through the poles of the horseshoe magnet. Using the stand, fix the copper wire so that it passes through the poles of the horseshoe magnet. Connect the circuit as well. What do you observe? When a current is not flowing through the wire, it remains straight. This is obviously it is going to remain straight. Why? Because if there is no current in the wire, there will be no magnetic field. So please understand this. If there is no current in the wire, there will be no magnetic field around the wire. If there is no magnetic field around the wire, then there will be no effect of the magnetic field of the horseshoe magnet on the wire. Please listen to and understand this sentence carefully. If there is no current flowing through the wire, then there will be no magnetic field around the wire. If there is no magnetic field around the wire because of the absence of current, then the magnetic field of the horseshoe magnet will not be able to influence the wire, because only one magnetic field will not have any effect. To understand this, you can imagine that you're having two bar magnets in your hand, and you know one end of north pole is brought near the other end south pole, then you know they will attract. unlike poles attract, and if like poles are brought near, then they will repel, right? So for some effect to have, you need to have two magnetic field. For some effect to have, you need two magnetic fields. But when current is not flowing through the wire, there is only one magnetic field. That is the magnetic field of the horseshoe magnet. If there is the magnetic field of the horseshoe magnet, in that case, there will be no effect. Okay. Next situation is when the current flows from top to bottom, the wire bends and comes into position C. Now let's try to see where is the position C. Okay. So when the current flows from top to bottom, then the wire will move outwards. That is what they are showing. The wire will move outwards. Then if the current is reversed, next they have mentioned, if the current is reversed, it flows from the bottom to the top. So first condition was it flows from top to bottom, then the wire bends and comes to position C. Second condition here for the current is it is reversed, that is it is flowing from bottom to the top. The wire bends but comes in position B. This means that the direction of force on the wire is perpendicular to both the magnetic field and the direction of the current. So what they are trying to show you is that, see, if you look at this diagram, let me erase the red line so that it becomes very clear for you. Okay, now you see they have shown you dotted lines. Okay, so this dotted line is basically, one is this one which is outwards, and the second one I will use blue color which is inward, right? And but both are perpendicular. It is perpendicular to the wire, okay, as well as the direction of the magnetic field. So what this experiment is trying to prove is that if you change the direction of the current flowing through this wire, then the wire will show some displacement, it will show some movement. Okay, it will show some movement. That movement will be perpendicular, okay, to both the magnetic field as well as the direction of the current. Okay, so again let me repeat, if the direction of the current is reversed, okay, then the wire will get displaced. The wire will get displaced in a particular direction, and that direction will be perpendicular of the magnetic field as well as the direction of the current. So again, think when I am telling this sentence, when we allow the current to flow through the wire, first case is top to bottom, first case is yes, top to bottom, and the second is bottom to top, right? Then both the cases we will see that the displacement will be different. In the first case, when the current flows from top to bottom, you have this C, that is what the wire is coming out, and second case you have B, that is the wire is going in. But both these displacements are perpendicular to the direction, of the magnetic field as well as the direction of the current. Understand? So let's see that line which is very important, okay, which is extremely important. This means that the direction of the force on the wire is perpendicular to both the magnetic field and the direction of the current. Okay, then that tells you very interesting point is basically that when you are changing the direction of the current, no, the poles which are formed, that is the north pole and south pole, they also get reversed actually. Okay, now to understand this point, if you know, just logically you can think one very interesting point is, let me erase this first. Okay, if the wire has to come close to the magnetic field of the horseshoe magnet, okay, if the wire has to come close, then there should be attraction, right? And if the wire is going outwards, okay, then away, then there has to be repulsion, is it not? So there has to be attraction for the wire to come close, and there has to be repulsion for the wire to go away. So basically what is happening is when you're changing the direction of the current, the poles are changing. So there is a possibility that the north pole of the magnetic field of the horseshoe magnet, as well as the magnetic field which is created by the current in the wire, both the magnetic fields are similar, so they repel. And when you reverse it, right, what was north becomes south, and what was south becomes north, so it gets attracted. So you see, the experiment is very difficult as such to imagine, okay, uh, but what we can say is, looking at B and C, yes, it is very clear here that when the current flows from top to bottom, the arrow tells everything. Focus at the arrows, focus at the arrow, okay? Arrow tells everything, okay? That is, when the current is top to bottom, it goes outwards. And when the current is from bottom to top, it goes inwards. And this inward and outward thing is very clear from what I told you, attraction and repulsion. Something, when it will attract, it will go towards, and when it will repel, it will come outwards. So those both concepts you have to get. Now to understand this better, why does this happen? Now the question arises, why the magnetic field is perpendicular, to both. Why the displacement, what you are watching, basically when you say displacement, it is what? It is a force which is acting on the conductor. The displacement is caused because of the force which is acting on the conductor, okay? Displacement is caused because of the force which is acting on the conductor. Remember this point. So the displacement which is caused because of the force which is acting on the conductor, that force we will try to understand. We know that that force is perpendicular to both the electric current as well as the magnetic field. That is why we understand this by a rule which is called Fleming's left hand rule. So as you can see, the fingers are stretched. Which all fingers? Your middle finger, your index finger, and your thumb. So you have to hold, currently right now when you're watching this diagram, you have to hold your fingers exactly similar to the image shown. You have to hold your fingers exactly to the image shown, okay? Are you ready? Yes. Now if, okay, your index finger is pointing in the direction of the magnetic field, check out, okay, your middle finger shows the direction of the current, then the thumb will show the force, okay, on the conductor. Now here we have to be very careful. This rule is Fleming's left hand rule. Children, when you're holding your fingers stretched, it should be exactly perpendicular, and it is obvious that you have to hold your left hand because it is Fleming's left hand rule. So what does Fleming's left hand rule gives us? It gives us the direction of the force acting on the conductor. But in SSC board, you have to remember a very important point, that uh, the order, you have to remember the order. So the rule starts from here, okay, that is according to the Fleming's left hand rule, the left hand thumb, the index finger and the middle finger are stretched so as to be perpendicular to each other, okay? If the index finger is in the direction, so you have to remember, first comes the index finger, okay, I comes first, then middle finger comes, and then the force, IMF, okay? So you can remember IMF, which tells you index finger is in the direction of the magnetic field, the middle finger points in the direction of the current, then the direction of the thumb is the direction of the force on the conductor. So basically what this Fleming's left hand rule is telling you, it is giving you the direction of the force on the conductor. It is telling you that, first of all, the left hand thumb, the index finger, the left hand thumb. So when you start the sentence, you start like this: the thumb, index finger, the middle finger. Correct? So remember this: the left hand thumb, the index finger, and the middle finger are stretched, okay, so as to be perpendicular to each other. The thumb, the index finger, the middle finger are stretched so as to be perpendicular to each other. Then if the index finger is in the direction, if the index finger, right, if the index finger is in the direction of the magnetic field, the middle finger is in the direction of the current, then the thumb, then the direction of the thumb is in the direction of the force of the conductor. The direction of the thumb is in the direction of the force of the conductor. So Fleming's left hand rule gives us an explanation of why that wire in the beginning, right, of the experiment we saw, why the wire was moving outwards and inwards, and why it was perpendicular. Because Fleming's left hand rule tells us that, first of all, we have to stretch our thumb, our index finger and middle finger so as such a way that they are perpendicular to each other. And then if the index finger points in the direction of the magnetic field, the middle finger is in the direction of the current, then the direction of the thumb is the direction of the force on the conductor. So this is very important. Then you can repeat with me that then the direction of the thumb is in the direction of the force of the conductor. Then the direction of the thumb is in the direction of the force of the conductor. Then the direction of the thumb is the direction of the force of the conductor. So this is Fleming's left hand rule. And next topic related to this is the application. What is the application of Fleming's left hand rule? That is electric motor. Okay. So next lecture we will be studying tomorrow a very critical lecture. We will be studying about electric motor. So electric motor, and we will go to electromagnetic induction. Okay. Then a very little part of the topic is remaining, right hand rule and the generator part. Okay. So before that we have to cover this left hand rule, because if you understand the left hand rule, then it is easy to understand the right hand rule. Okay. After left hand rule you study the left hand rule, then you have to study the right hand rule. And as I told you, once the left hand rule is perfect, then the right hand rule also will be easy, because the notations are the same, only the order is different. Okay. Now what is the difference in the order is basically the application is electric motor. Now you have seen an electric motor. What do you do in electric motor? In an electric motor you pass current, is it not? In this electric motor you pass current. When you pass current, the coils rotate. Okay. That is, we studied there is a force which is acting on the conductor, and as applications of the Fleming's rule or application of this magnetic effect, what we are doing is we are using this force in our daily life to create a device. We have used this force. We have used this force to create a device which is called electric motor. In electric motor, what happens is, what principle is there is that the electrical energy is converted into mechanical energy. Electrical energy is converted into mechanical energy. You are supplying electricity to the device, and what is the result? The device is providing mechanical energy. How? The coil is rotating. Why the coil is rotating is because when you pass current through the coil, a force acts on the coil. When you pass current through the coil, a force acts on the coil. So the basic principle comes from this experiment. So here in this experiment, there was this single wire, right, which I am again showing it by red. Now this wire was placed in a magnetic field and we passed current through this wire. Is it not? We placed this wire in a magnetic field and we passed current through this wire. When we passed current through this wire produced its own magnetic field, and that magnetic field interacted with the already present magnetic field. The magnetic field produced by this wire interacted with the already present magnetic field, and then the result was that there was a force which was acting on this wire, and the direction of the force is given by the Fleming's left hand rule. Same principle we are using in a motor. In the motor, like this wire, red wire, which you can see, there is a coil of wire and current is passed through that coil, and this coil is present in a magnetic field. So inside a motor, okay, small motors, there are different types of motors. I'm talking a very simple small motor where already there is a magnet, and inside that magnet, between that magnet, you have the coil of wire. Okay, so when current flows to the coil of wire, it produces its own magnetic field. Listen to the sentences carefully. When current flows to the wire, it produces its own magnetic field. That magnetic field interacts with the already present magnetic field of the magnet, and when force acts on the wire, that force rotates the coil. So when you are passing current into the coil of a motor, that coil produces its own magnetic field. That magnetic field interacts with already present magnetic field, and by Fleming's left hand rule we know that there will be a force acting on the conductor, and that force is what which is responsible for the rotation of the coil. So you see, we started with this experiment which was little bit unclear. We studied Fleming's left hand rule, we understood the motor. Now when you come back to this, it looks very easy. That is, there is a wire, you're passing current through it, and you know that when you pass current through this, it will produce its own magnetic field, and you also know that already there is a magnetic field, so both the magnetic fields will interact and there will be a force on this wire. If the current is flowing from top to bottom, the force will be outwards. If the current is flowing from bottom to top, it will be inwards. Whatever is the direction of the force, it is always perpendicular to the magnetic field as well as the direction of the current that we know from Fleming's left hand rule. And that force is applied in the creation of this motor. So how the motor works is a very detailed topic we will be dealing in the next lecture. So my suggestion is to watch this lecture at least twice and try to understand, because there are concepts involved in this lecture. It's very important. Once you understand motor, understanding generator is very easy. Okay, so you have to understand motor perfectly well so that you can come to the topic of generator and figure out its working very easily. So this is the base. So please try. If you have doubts, as always, I'm always there, but please clear your doubts before proceeding to the next topic. And also watch the animated videos, okay, which will be posted along this in my website later. So that is the end of this topic, and